All right, we're back and ready to dive into the full review here for The Wedding Singer. JD, are you ready?
Locked and loaded. Let's do
Let's put on those fake
this.
mustaches and grow our mullets. Let's dive in here. We begin with our main character, Robbie Hart, and his band playing at a wedding. Our first song, You Spin Me Right Round, Baby, Right Round. Like a record, baby. JD, let's talk about Adam Sandler for a second here as Robbie Hart. This is our third Adam Sandler movie. What did you think about him here in the lead role?
At first, he's kind of difficult to look at.
Okay.
That's how he strikes me. He's got this mullet going on. He's just wearing this oversized, think big, Doug Funny kind of a suit. He's just like swimming in his own existence, but he's rocking it. And it's hard to, I don't know, it's kind of difficult for me. I mean, we were so young in the 80s that we never were at weddings in the 80s that we could have remembered a time when the wedding singers owned the show. But I kind of just instantly feel bad for him. Like I just want to give him a shower.
Okay. I didn't feel bad for him. I actually think being a wedding singer would be really cool. I don't know why. I've always like dreamed of being like a wedding singer band and doing that every weekend just for fun. I guess I don't really need to dream about it. I could probably just do it. It's not really that unattainable. Have you ever been to a wedding with like a really good wedding singer band?
There was one wedding where they had a pretty good, solid live jazz band, but
Okay.
it wasn't a wedding singer led band like this where he was sort of the maestro of the night.
Yeah, I've been to one, and it was essentially the wedding band, or actually, it wasn't a wedding band, but the band that plays at the school dance in Back to the Future, and they were amazing. I left that going, why would anybody ever hire a DJ? This was a million times better. I wish I would have got that guy's name. I would have had him at my wedding. Let's talk about the soundtrack, man. So many good songs on this throughout the entire film. Do you have a favorite song from the movie?
Because it's the first song that pops into my head, I'm going to say White Wedding.
Okay. White Wedding definitely is one that stands out. Can I say I think my favorite song on the entire like soundtrack album might be Do You Really Want to Hurt Me? Come on, give it up for George.
Play it again.
Play it again. And that's kind of what happens here in the next scene is he's going to take a little bit of a break and toss it over to George, and then we're going to meet the brother-in-law, and we've got our first clip here. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
When my brother, Harold, asked me to be the best man at his wedding, I was like, oh, of course, man. Because you've always been there for me. Like when I was in rehab, and like the time I couldn't find my car. Because Harold, he's always been the dependable one, and I've always been the screwed up one. Right, Dad? Why can't you be more like your brother? Harold would never beat up his landlord.
He's drunk as shit.
But, little newsflash, Pop. Harold ain't so perfect. Remember that time in Puerto Rico when we picked up those two, well, I guess they were prostitutes, but I don't remember paying. Okay, how about that? How about that? Yeah, what?
Terrific.
Huh? I'm a person too, Pop, goddammit. I'm a person too.
You're a moron.
JD, what do you think of this first scene here with Dave?
Obviously, Buscemi just kills it as this sort of lost little puppy.
Yeah.
I feel so bad for him because he's so drunk. He doesn't know what's going on. And it reminds me of my older brother's wedding where I was the best man for whatever reason. I was like all of 18 at the time. And I had to give the speech, obviously, as the best man.
Oh boy.
I had no idea what to say. So I just said some generic lines. And afterward, my older brother comes up to me and he said, dead serious, that sucked. Why did you say any of that? That was horrible. I said, I'm glad I can help. And we haven't been friends really since.
Wow, that's interesting. That also makes me a little scared because I have to give my own speech in about 5 months. Have not started writing it yet. Probably need to start. Also, he listens to this podcast. Hey, bud. I got
Well,
you.
I've given great speeches since then.
Okay. All right, good. Good. Maybe I can pick your brain.
Yeah,
little bit,
absolutely.
okay.
It's a good mixture of preparation and 1 to 2 drinks.
Okay.
Obviously, Steve Buscemi's, he's in the 6 to 7 drink range here.
And he leaves the stage here and goes, they'll be divorced in a year. And then Robbie comes in and saves the day with a nice little speech where he talks about, meeting a special girl and he's getting married soon. And then George takes it away on the vocals. JD, what do you think about this opening scene here?
It sets the stage for everything that we could hope for. We get to learn who our character is from a writing standpoint. It establishes who Robbie Hart is, what he's capable of, what he's strong at, and what he's vulnerable with. And it transitions beautifully into the next coming scenes, which we get to see more about his character development and eventual, no spoiler alert, crash.
We also meet Sammy next, who is the driver and Robbie's best friend. And what'd you think of Sammy here? And I think he's just an awesome addition to the cast here.
Anytime we can get Alan Covert in a role in an Adam Sandler movie is just, I love it. And until we one day cover Grandma's Boy, which will have to be a future episode.
One of my favorite movies.
Oh my gosh. We're just going to have to deal with his sideline shenanigans. And just like we saw in Happy Gilmore, he's fantastic.
So great as the one shoe homeless man caddy. Love that role. So anyway, Sammy is talking with Robin. And he goes, that new waitress, she's going to get it. She doesn't even know it yet. And Robin's like, all right, well, you relax. And we see Julia Sullivan for the first time, played by Drew Barrymore. This is our second Drew Barrymore movie, although her first one was a pretty small role in Scream. What did you think of her here as Julia Sullivan and almost Mrs. Julia Guglia?
She has such almost like a Midwestern girl feel to her homeliness, where she's very beautiful and she's very strong, and she almost has this sort of naive aura around her where you sort of want to protect her, but at the same time, like, you realize, like, what's Alan's character's name?
Sammy.
Duh, how could I lose Sammy's name? Sammy's thinking that he's just going to take her on the bone drone. But she's stronger than that, and she's more worthwhile than just falling for his sultry mustache.
In the kitchen, Julia is talking to Holly, and she says that being a part of this wedding has made her realize that Glenn is never going to actually marry her, and she feels dumb for having moved here to get closer. Cook tells them to relax, as he's wearing his relaxed t-shirt and blasting some Frankie in the background here. Robbie comes to the rescue again with a young teenage kid who's about to hurl outside, and he takes him and lets him puke. And he runs into Dave again outside, and he tells him to relax and sleep it off, which Dave responds with, "Hey, wedding singer, ow!" JD, I have no idea why he said that, but that line cracked me up.
I feel like you've drunkenly said that to somebody before, probably.
What does that mean? Hey, JD, ow! Like, I don't
exactly.
Yeah, it means nothing.
I would feel if somebody said to me, "Hey, JD, oh," I would follow up with "Werewolves of London."
Okay. Well, point well taken. Now let's talk about Robbie and Julia. They meet for the first time. She tells him that she's going to be waitressing next weekend for his wedding. And he asked about her, and she says, well, the guy that gave me this ring, I don't know if he's that serious. And then Sammy tells Robbie to come back because they're turning on George. We cut to the wedding where a man yells, "You suck!" JD, what are your thoughts on the first interaction here between Robbie and Julia?
It's very cute and it's very sweet. And if this is your first time watching it, treasure the moments where you get to see these like infant breadcrumbs of a relationship growing, because in my opinion, this movie does a great job of fostering the relationship between the two of them and growing them closer together through their character development. It's not just forced like some other Adam Sandler movies where, like in Happy Gilmore, it's like, oh, you're the golfer, oh, you're the PR person, oh, me, let's kiss. I think there's a lot more subtlety to this. That was good, right?
Yeah, that was good. So we cut to Robbie giving piano lessons to Rosie. She's this nice old lady played by Ellen Albertini Dow. She lived to be 101 before she passed away in 2015. Over 100 acting credits. JD, did you recognize her right away? She's been in a couple movies I love.
Yeah, I know that I've known her throughout the years, and I remember watching this movie back in the day and being like, oh, it's that old lady who wasn't in Golden Girls, but she was probably in an episode of Golden Girls. Actually, I think she was in an episode of Golden Girls.
Okay. She probably was. She was also in Ready to Rumble, which I love. She's, remember, she's like, she asked to bring back a pair of tights, and she's like, make them extra tight. And then she talks about smacking DDP. And then she's in Wedding Singer, where she calls her grandson a homo.
Wedding
He's
Crashers.
A homo. Oh, what did I say? Wedding Singer.
You said Wedding Singer.
Yes, she is in Wedding Crashers, not Wedding Singer. And yeah, drops the homo line, which cracks me up. Now, she asked Robbie if this is going to be his first time with intercourse, and then goes on to tell him that she had intercourse 8 times before she got married. He's like, I don't need to know this. She doesn't have the money to pay him, so she pays him in meatballs. JD, what do you think about the meatballs?
That's a good meatball.
It looked good, didn't it?
It is. That's a line that me and Justin Bronson and some other people still use to just randomly describe stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good meatball.
Yeah.
Hey, how's that burger you're eating? That's a good meatball.
And she does increase as the movie goes on. He eventually gets to 3 meatballs.
Yeah, I knew a guy in high school that had 3 meatballs.
Interesting. We cut to Julia and her mother. Her mother here, if people are huge fans of Friends like I am, will notice that's actually Ross and Monica's mother, who is playing Julia's mother here. At the wedding, Robbie's waiting at the altar, and the violins are playing Don't Stop Believin' from Journey. Love that song. Robbie finds out that he's being stood up at the altar, and he appears to be in absolute shock, but he tries to play it cool. He walks out, goes into a gazebo, and then he completely loses his shit and starts screaming. JD, have you ever known anyone that's been stood up at a wedding?
Very close. I will name the person without name.
Okay.
That's called leaving them nameless. Had a person that we played football with in college, you and I, you know him. But they canceled the wedding a week before the wedding. Yeah, so like had the wedding invitations, the save the date, had everything ready to go, and then they had to send out wedding cancellations a week before the wedding. Sorry, wedding is off.
Wow, interesting.
Person has long since moved on and is extremely happy. He made the right decision, in my opinion, but at the same time, it was kind of a tragic little ordeal.
Yeah, I bet. That sounds awful. I can't believe I forgot about that. I actually do remember that now. Okay.
Yeah, it was a thing.
Yeah, it was a thing. We cut to Robbie's place, and we see Billy Idol for the first time on the tube singing White Wedding. 2 little kids are running through the house, one of them dressed as Freddy Krueger. I love that part.
In our archive.
In our archives, part 1, and then in the archives for Black Cat Shadow for part 2. We shall be back with 3 and 4 this year. Stay tuned. Now, Robbie's sitting outside when we finally meet what we thought was going to be his wife, and we start to get a lot of information about what happened. And JD, what are your thoughts about Linda here?
She's kind of a bitch.
That's what the little nephew says. Hi, Aunt Linda. Yo, a bitch.
Yo, a bitch.
The guy, he might have Tourette's. We're looking into it. I don't know.
Yeah, for her to stand him up in that way, obviously anytime love fizzles, love on the rocks,
Yeah.
it sucks. For it to happen on his wedding day like that sucks. But for her to show up and for her to be just like looking all beautiful and being like, oh, sorry, yeah, I think she looks good.
Yeah, I would have forgave her in a heartbeat, but yeah, I mean she was definitely looked good there. But I still use this line all the time. I love the part where he's like, "This is again information that would have been useful yesterday." He screams at her. I don't know. I probably said that 100 times over the years.
I bet you've said it more than that.
I probably a couple times a year, for sure. Now, next we see Julia and Glenn for the first time. He tells her that he's booked 2 tickets to Las Vegas. He's finally caving in. She's excited, but she's kind of not that excited because it's Vegas and she wants to get married here. And eventually he changes his mind. He's like, okay, well, I can see how much it means to you. JD, Glen Guglia is a very underrated bad guy. What do you think about him?
I love Glen Guglia. Like, he's going to unfold and we'll see so much more about him and his tendencies as a villain. He's really cool. He's a great guy through and through, and I would hang out with him in a heartbeat.
Sammy arrives in his limo and says, Robbie, he's talking to Robbie's brother-in-law. He says, I think he's having a mental episode. I looked up this guy. He's actually from Goodfellas. I was like, oh, he's very Italian. He pleads with him to do something because he doesn't want to be known as the brother-in-law living with the town nut in his basement. Robbie is laying down in his bed when Sammy comes down, listening to some pretty depressing music in the background. Sammy tells him that he's got to go back to work, man. There's going to be over 100 drunk women at this next wedding. And Robbie says, why would anyone want to marry me? Sammy's like, hey, I'm not trying to get them to marry you. I just want them to play with your ding dong. Great line. Next, we're at a wedding and Robbie is just depressing. He's mopey. He's singing a song that's supposed to be upbeat, but he's singing it very depressingly. When it ends, he starts talking to the couple. He's like, well, you guys are off to a good start. Cindy showed up, so right away, you got to be pretty psyched about that, right, Scott? The father of the bride tells him he's not paying him for his thoughts. He's paying him to sing. And Robbie screams, well, I have a mic and you don't, so you will listen to every damn word I have to say. He continues his depressing speech and says that he'll never find true love. Take, for example, this guy. And he points to a fat guy pigging out, and then goes to the sideburn lady, and then to the mutants at table 9. The father has finally had enough, and he tells him he's the worst singer ever, or worst wedding singer ever. Robbie threatens to strangle him with the mic cord, and then says, we better cut the cake here before the fat guy has a heart attack. You cut to the fat guy, and he's like, hey, that's not... Yeah, that is true. And then he starts singing, Love Stinks. Yeah. JD, what'd you think of this scene that ends with Robbie actually getting knocked out by the father?
First of all, table 9 and the mutants. Woo! Just love that part. Just shout out to any time that there's a table 9 anywhere.
Right.
It's like in That Thing You Do, where they're one of their first gigs that they do, and they're on stage and they're at the bar outside the airport, the pizza place, and then Steve Zahn's like, table 9, your pizza's ready.
Future episode.
I can't wait till we do that. That's going to be it's going to be like a 4-hour episode, but it'll be so worth it.
So outside, Julia goes looking for Robbie, and she hears a groan and finds him laying in the trash. She tells him, yeah, everyone's pretty much left except for a couple cops. They're still interviewing a few of the witnesses. Robbie says that he hates weddings, and he wants everybody to be miserable just like him. She tells him that he's the best and that, hey, Glenn and me finally set a date and you have to play my wedding. He's like, congratulations, but I'm not doing it. So JD, from a writing standpoint, what do you like about this character turn here for Robbie?
It's almost like a Woody Allen type of a self-loathing character that he becomes, where he just he's a wedding singer that hates weddings. So anytime that, if you're writing a character, if you're trying to set up a situation, you want to take something and turn it upside down. So the idea, again, of a wedding singer that hates weddings is funny. Like, it's instantly relatable.
So we cut to the engagement party. Glenn is asking Julia here if she thinks that maybe it'd be better if she just kind of took over all the arrangements. And she's like, oh, that'd be a lot of work. And one of his friends here is director Stephen Brill, who directed Heavyweights in our archives, Mr. Deeds, Little Nicky. Very good director. I like his work. And then Glenn's buddy says, oh, Robbie R. Is that, oh, crazy. Yeah, what happened? You getting stood up at your own wedding? Robbie's like, yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, my parents died when I was 10 too. You want to bring them up? And then Glenn tells his friend to come have a drinks at the bar, which Robbie comments, yeah, go have a couple drinks and then drive home. That'll be good. He thanks Julia for inviting him and Sammy to the engagement party. And then I've got a funny clip here of Robbie calling out Sammy. Let's take a listen.
You know what? First time this guy saw you, he told me he was going to hit on you.
Really?
That's not true. Yeah, it is. He told me she was in trouble. She was going to get it, and she didn't even know it.
He's teasing. I would never say that.
What? You said you were going to give it to her.
Give me what exactly?
Yeah.
You're a jerk.
What do you mean? You didn't know she was engaged?
So now you're not going to give it to me?
Very funny. Say hi to your brother Tito.
JD, what do you think about this scene?
This is where I learned that Michael Jackson had a brother named Tito. I will admit that. I was not a Jackson 5 fan. And ironically and stupidly, it took this movie for me to learn who Tito Jackson was.
Quick question. Do you prefer Jackson 5 Michael Jackson or solo MJ?
That is the question somebody from Indiana would ask somebody not from Indiana. Therefore, I won't answer.
I'm going to go... I like solo MJ.
You would.
Doesn't matter if you're black or white. Also, soundtrack of Free Willy. Love both those songs.
It doesn't matter if you're black or white because he was both?
That's true.
Am I not allowed to say that? Is that too soon?
No, I don't think you're wrong. You're an asshole, but you're not wrong.
I accept.
In our archives also. So Robbie is giving Julia a tip about what store she should be going to for her wedding, and he doesn't want her to get screwed around. But again, he's kind of sticking to his guns about not doing anything with weddings, and she's like, it's a shame, we're not going to be able to really hang out as much anymore. But he promises her, we'll still hang out. And we cut to a bar mitzvah. And we find Robbie with a little chubby kid who's kind of sitting alone, and we find out that he tried to ask out a girl, but she called him a loser. And then moments later, Robbie calls up Julia and tells her, I want you to pick one of these lucky guys. And he tells her to find the most coolest, the most unlosery guy in the entire bunch. She goes over and picks the chubby kid. And then during the dance, the kid gets a little frisky here and cops a feel. Grabs the old hams and a hanky. JD, what do you think about this scene?
Yeah, that doesn't fly anymore, little fat Jewish kid. No. You can't do that.
Yeah, you can't go double hands. And then to top it off, Robbie does the same thing and has some little girl put her hands on his ass.
Yeah, I did not like that part. And I remember not liking that part back in 1998.
Yeah, I kind of want to call him a pederass.
Don't like it. Do not like it.
Yeah, not cool. Not cool at all. Now, after the party, Julia thanks him for his advice on picking Tony. He gave her exactly what she needed, didn't overcharge her. And she tells him, I could really use some help. I feel like I'm going to end up paying $500 for a half-eaten cake. And he's like, I can't be the one that helps. I should be focusing on getting more gigs. And all right, I'll do it. So we cut to them at a wedding photographer, and Robbie's trying to get a better price out of her, and he mentions something about the Laminsols. How many movies now have we heard that name in Adam Sandler? Like, everybody's always like a Laminsol.
Ooh, you got me bested on that one, sir.
I think that's actually the character name for Kevin James in what's that movie with all the friends?
The Grown-Ups.
Grown Ups. There you go. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure his last name is Lamensall.
So you're admitting to an audience of 10 people that you've seen Grown-Ups.
Oh yeah, I watched it in theaters actually.
Okay, and that'll conclude tonight's episode because Kyle has apparently awful taste in movies and we're no longer friends. I'm deleting his number out of my phone and we'll never talk again.
Quick fact check: Kevin James's character in that movie, Eric Lamensall. I am correct. Boom. Let's continue on. So she caves and she gives them a better price, and then comments on how she can tell that they're just going to make a great couple, and they kind of play along for a moment before revealing that they aren't even together and he's just helping her out. We cut to wedding singer tryouts here. This might be my favorite scene in the entire movie. And we meet Jimmy Moore, played by John Lovitz. Robbie asked, he's like, hey, dude, when I'm on stage, do I look this goofy? And she's like, no, you're way better than this guy. Jimmy's playing to Julia the whole time as he sings Ladies Night. And then the song ends and I don't know if you've ever caught this, JD, but he says, thank you. This was Jimmy Moore saying, that ain't no sock in my crotch. Have you ever caught that line?
Oh, yeah. And
Okay.
every time it forces me to look at John Lovitz's nuts.
I know. That's what I was like, almost paused the screen. I'm like, all right, let me take a look here. So he tells the band to take 4 and then thanks Robbie for quitting the business because his business has tripled. Julia thanks him for inspiring her to hire a DJ, which he responds with, good luck finding a DJ that can move and shake like this. JD, what'd you think of this scene?
I love the way that John Lovitz can move and shake. And I know we talked in the teaser episode that we were going to work on our John Lovitz impressions. Kyle, apparently you haven't.
I think I have. I think that was pretty good.
I think I'm too nasally.
You might be too nasally right now. You got to really get up there.
Can move and shake. No,
Nope,
no.
you're too nasally.
That was just way too bad.
You move and shake. Yeah, too much nasal. Now, after he leaves, we find out that Robbie became a wedding singer to help make money so he could become a rock star, and really he just wanted to be a songwriter. And Julia's like, well, have you been writing any songs lately? He's like, I wrote one, but I got to warn you, like the first part of it I wrote when I was getting married to Linda, and the second part I wrote after the wedding was called off. But she's like, well, will you play it for me? He's like, all right, I guess I can do it. Let's take a listen to this scene.
Okay, I just want to warn you that when I wrote this song, I was listening to The Cure a lot, so...
Okay.
Here we go.
I liked it.
losing his mind. And I'm reaping all the benefits.
So JD, he's losing his mind, and Jimmy is reaping the benefits. What'd you think of the song?
Well, first of all, I think that was your best John Lovitz yet.
Thank you.
The song, I love when Adam Sandler injects songs that he obviously kind of wrote on his own. It's funny, and the fact that it's inspired by The Cure is even funnier. I mean, if you're familiar with The Cure, or if you're not familiar with The Cure, this is essentially inspired by The Cure. And it's just funny because it's so awful, yet at the same time so appropriate.
I will say I learned the song at the end of the movie, the one that he sings on the airplane. I forgot about this one. I'm definitely learning this song. If I'm ever needed at a wedding, I can bust it out. Here we go. Now let's cut to a montage next, where they're trying out wedding cake. I love the part where Robbie has to feed the lady with the really yellow teeth. And then they're trying on dresses, and Linda's getting more lessons. And now Julia's eating the meatballs. And then Robbie puts Sammy through this completely unnecessary timed obstacle course with his limo. And Julia's just laughing the whole time. She's like, of course I'm going to hire him. He's your best friend. He's also the only limo driver in town. The scene ends with Sammy finding out that his time wasn't good enough and he hit 2 cones. He's like, but they were cones! JD, what do you think about the montage here?
Obviously, montages are a great way to break up the action and the narrative of a movie. But the fact that we see Sammy doing this just goofy limousine. I don't know. I love this part. And I love the part when she's just like, well, I'm going to hire him because he's the only limo driver in town. It really sort of, to me, shrinks the scope of the environment that they're in, because we've got this story that takes place on this large scale, because we know Glenn is he's not a junk bond trader, but he's a high yield trader. You know, he's big time, but at the same time, they're in a town where there's one limo driver and there's an old lady that pays in meatballs. So it's kind of a cool little small scale that this montage establishes against a larger scale story.
I love the whole limo scene.
Yeah. That's your takeaway for my little rant there.
Yeah, you had a lot of good points, but all I could think of is I hit 2 cones. They were cones. Come on. So we cut to the limo at night, and Robbie is getting dropped off, and they realize the jacket in the back is Julia's. And Robbie remembers every detail of when she took it off and what she said, and he's laughing about it. And Sammy's like, you got the hots for Julia. And he's like, no, I don't. Come on. He said, no, of course you do. She's a cool chick with a hot ass. And Robbie's like, how about this? If you talk about her hot ass again, I'll break your neck. How about that? Anyways, she told me she likes you. And then he gets out of the car, and Sammy takes a big drag of his cigarette. He's like, oh, she did, huh? And he gets like, no, she did. JD, the cat's out of the bag, though, man. I mean, it's pretty obvious that Robbie is got a serious connection with Julia, right?
He definitely has a connection, which I think is cool because, as I mentioned earlier, they sort of start off not even friends, just sort of having light banter behind the banquet hall. And it's growing and growing and growing. And I think that to an extent, Robbie Hart is just sort of realizing the feelings that he has for her and how he respects her and how much he is falling in love with her that he may not have thought of before his best friend verbalized it for him.
Next, Robbie gets caught in a bit of a love triangle here between Julia and Holly as they debate over the best way to kiss at the wedding. Holly recommends they try everything out on Robbie, who's like, okay, I'll go along. And then Robbie and Julia lock lips here for a good, I'd say 10, 15 seconds. And we start to hear the guitar part for I Want to Grow Old With You playing in the background, which I thought was cool. Never noticed that. And Holly says, that was great. Then Glenn arrives and Robbie's like, I kissed her. It meant nothing. I brought her jacket. He's like, all right. And then Robbie just pieces off and Holly takes the fall for Julia. She's like, no, I kissed him. No big deal. And then Glenn is bringing in a compact disc and he has to explain what a CD is. JD, how weird was this scene to watch?
I can't believe how much money it costs for that thing. What did he say, like $700?
I think so.
Jeez.
Insane. A lot of cheddar.
You can get one installed in your car at Best Buy for cheaper than that now.
Do people still do that? I did that in high school.
Yeah, I hope they do. At least they do in like Alabama.
Okay. And some jackass broke my window and took my faceplate out. And my entire check. Yeah, we talked about this on episode, didn't we?
Yeah.
I'm still bitter about it, to be honest. I kind of would like my CD player back and my $150 Pizza Hut check. So if you're listening, asshole, how about you give it back? Later that night, they're on a double date, and Holly is just very Madonna-ish here. We see Glenn checking out the other waitress, and we find out Glenn works in like high-yield bonds or something. Holly continues to lay it on pretty thick here, complimenting Robbie. He's like, "Ooh, you look sexy with your greasy mullet." And Julia leaves, and she's about to throw up in the bathroom. And then we kind of find out some info about Glenn here. So first off, we find out his last name is Guglia, which Robbie goes, "Julia Guglia? That's funny." Glenn's like, "Why is that funny?" And then he comments on how Julia has paid her dues, and plus she was with him before he made his money, so he knows she's loyal. And then Robbie sets a little trap for Glenn here, and he falls right into it. He's talking about the waitress, and you can't get girls like that anymore. And Glenn calls her grade A top choice meat, and then admits to sleeping with a hot chick only 10 days ago. JD, I know you're a huge fan of Glenn. He's a real jerk here. How do you defend this?
I don't defend it, but audience, you'll often hear me coming to the aid and defending villains, and I don't want you to think that I actually think his behavior is cool or good or anything like that, because he's kind of an asshole. But I just respect how well he's written as an asshole and a son of a bitch, and how creepy he is, and how great he looks, and how awesome he is with the CD player. And then we get his car coming up, and just everything about Glen Guglia. You have to respect who he is and what they created.
Oh, sure, but Charlie Conway's an asshole.
Oh, that kid is such a weak piece of trash.
Glenn pulls up in his DeLorean, sweet car, and Glenn tells her not to puke in the car because it'll stink for a week. And then later on, Robbie drops off Holly and they kiss, and she tries to invite him in and guarantees that if he goes upstairs, he's getting laid. Holly finally realizes that Robbie has a thing for Julia, and she kind of kicks him when he's down, talking about Glenn's financial security and how he doesn't have that. JD, I think Robbie deserves an award for passing on Holly here. What do you think about this scene?
I think you're right to call it a passing on and to say that he gets an award for, because it really shows to his character and his loving admiration for Julia. He's not just the guy looking for the slam dunk or the alley-oop or the swoosh for other basketball little phrases there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, even rewatching it now, I was kind of surprised that he didn't go for it. It seemed like he should have, but he doesn't have a mustache. He's not wearing a mustache.
Hey, JD, who's your favorite basketball player, and why is it somebody from probably 1992?
Stacey King, how'd you know?
It's amazing. The next morning, Holly tells Julia that she kissed Robbie, but that's as far as it went. She mentioned that that Robbie brought up that Glenn is a real jerk, and Julia's kind of confused by it all. So later we see Julia go over to Miss Rosie's house, and she wants to see Robbie, but he's not at lessons because he went to the city to get a real job. So we cut to Robbie interviewing at the bank with Kevin Nealon. I love the cameo. He's kind of a bit of a staple for Adam Sandler films, is he not?
Oh yeah, he is fantastic all the time.
Was he in? I'm trying to remember if does he make an appearance in like Waterboy or Big Daddy? Because I know he was in, for sure, he's in Billy Madison, right? And he's also in Happy Gilmore because he's one of the golfers.
I know for a fact he's in Grandma's Boy.
Yep. He's also in Grandma's Boy, future episodes.
I think he's one of the opposing lawyers at one point in Big Daddy.
Ooh, I think you're right. Anyway, he's awesome. I love Anyway, Robbie has no experience, but he says, I like money. I have a little bit of it. I'd like to get more, sir, and that's where you come in. And of course he gets turned down for the job, and he tries to bargain with the guy. He says he'll give him 10 music lessons for 1 business card, and then he gets kicked out. And then we cut back to Rosie, who tells Julia that if he comes back, she'll pay him 3 meatballs. JD, 3 meatballs, that's a pretty good deal, isn't it?
Well, shoot, if you have yourself some bread and a little bit of cheese, you got yourself a sandwich.
I mean, wouldn't he be smart to just bring his own little container of spaghetti and a little bit of sauce on there?
I would prefer the meatball sub over the spaghetti, because if he's bringing his own sauce and it doesn't mix with the sauce that she made the meatballs with, you got a mess.
Ooh, good point.
Yeah, you're damn right. I got it.
Just like a half a loaf of Italian bread will do the trick?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Robbie arrives back from his big interview, and Julia is waiting for him with a gift that she's made. And they end up getting into a fight here because Robbie thinks that she's marrying Glenn because of his money. And then she throws her present in the air and calls him an asshole. And he finds out that she actually made him blank sheet music with his name on it. He goes, God, I am an asshole. We cut to the bar. Robbie and Sammy are meeting up, and he tells Sammy that he was right all along. An old man at the bar comments that women will rip your heart out of your ass. He tells Sammy the news about Glenn cheating on Julia, and he's confused about what to do. And then he finally admits to being in love with her. And Sammy tells Robbie, I'm actually miserable. Don't be like me. Because Robbie's like, I'm just going to be like you and sleep with every chick. JD, what do you think about this scene? And in particular, the old man at the bar?
Dude, I love this old guy. He's fantastic, isn't he? He's just going toe to toe, and he's throwing out some sage advice. And
yeah.
Who is he? He's somebody, isn't he? He's been in some other movies, hasn't he?
I wanted to say he was Blue from Old School, but I don't think he is.
That's what I was thinking too, but I didn't want to sound stupid, so I'm glad that you said it first. Now you sound stupid and not me.
I'm the moron.
Are you fact checking it at least?
I'm pulling it up right now to see if we can get an IMDb on this young fellow. Let's see here. I wonder if he has a name or if he's just old man at the bar. Yep, old man at the bar. That's what he's credited as. Carmen Philpe lived to be 80 years old. He was oh, wow. Nice. He's Old Man Withers in Wayne's World. Love that. He's the messenger in Beetlejuice. And he was also Reverend Jackson Sayer in Halloween 4. The Return of Michael Myers.
So he's everybody but Blue from Old School.
Yeah, he's not Blue.
But in our minds, he is.
Poor guy. I mean, had 103 acting credits, and we're confusing him for somebody he's not.
I wonder if he at least auditioned for the role of Blue.
Well, he had to audition. Come on. We cut to Julia in her wedding dress, talking to her mom, and she's definitely having some doubts here. She gets in front of the mirror, and she says, "Hello, my name is Mrs. Julia Guglia." And then she says it again, but the second time it makes her cry. And then we see Robbie outside making his way towards her house. And finally she looks at the mirror and says, "Hi, I'm pleased to meet you. I'm Mrs. Robbie Hart." And she's like gushing, and she keeps talking to herself. And of course he looks up and sees her and thinks, well, she looks really happy. I better leave her alone. And he's going to go back to the bar and start drinking himself stupid. So they decide to go to the alley. And that's where we bump into Glenn. Let's listen to a clip here.
Hey, it's Wedding Singer.
Hey, Glenn, what's up?
Hey, Bobby. I heard you couldn't close the deal with Holly. Yeah, what's the matter with that? You like women, right?
Not as much as you do, I guess.
Listen, we're going to have a little 3 bags for a party. You want to come in and have a beer?
You're ridiculous, man. Stop all this cheating shit, moron. She's a good girl.
Hey, asswipe. Don't go snitching to Julia about this. I know you got some little crush on her. But you gotta face the facts. She'd rather go to bed with a real man, not some poor singing orphan.
All right, shithead. Haven't been in the butt since I was in the 5th grade.
But I beat the shit out of that kid, so now I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. Okay, what are you doing?
I'm sorry. I used to be much stronger.
Hey, why don't you write a song about this? You can call it, I got punched in the nose for sticking my face in other people's business.
JD, Robbie can't seem to catch a break here. Do you feel bad for him at all getting knocked out?
I do, because we get to see a little bit of a softer side of him, but I don't know. Whatever Glenn and his crew is doing, they're just sort of like hanging out and walking down the alley like a bunch of thugs.
Yeah.
What really? What are they doing? Because it's not like they don't seem to be in like a very populated area. They're not like a downtown bar district. They're just at like this neighborhood pub, and then here comes Glenn with some people.
Right. I don't know where they're going. I don't know why Blue had to stick his nose in there, because Robbie got into a fight in 5th grade and he kicked that kid's ass. He's about to do the same thing.
That's good credentials.
Yeah. I would say so. He probably kicked the guy in the nuts. That was always your way out, right?
You either kick him in the nuts and run, or you smother poop all over your hands and put it in their face.
So Linda is waiting at Robbie's doorstep when he arrives back home. He passes out on the lawn, and she's going to take advantage of him here. The next morning, Julia arrives at the house to see Robbie, and she's met by Linda, who's wearing nothing more than a t-shirt. Julia wants to know where Robbie is, but Linda says, he's a little disposed at the moment in the shower, and introduces herself as Robbie's fiance before slamming the door in Julia's face. Robbie, of course, is not in the shower. He wakes up and finds Linda, and he clearly doesn't remember what happened last night. And she says, I can learn to live with the fact that you're just a wedding singer. And he kicks her out, and he says, I want you to take off my Van Halen t-shirt before you jinx the band. And they break up. And she says, oh, so you're still pissed about the wedding thing? And we cut to the door being slammed in her face outside. JD, Robbie's turning down women left and right here. I mean,
yeah.
He's got to get to the one.
He's got the one. His heart is aligned.
So we cut to Julia, who wakes up Glenn and tells him that she wants to go to Vegas. He's excited and says, okay, let's go. So we cut to the wedding anniversary with Rosie, who's singing to her husband. She's singing a nice classical song here. And after the song, Robbie goes up to her to say goodbye, and he has to go get Julia. And Holly runs in, and she tells Robbie that Julia came over to his house today, and Linda answered in her underwear. And she tells him that they're boarding a plane to Vegas right now. So we cut to the airport where Robbie gets the last ticket to Vegas in first class. And he talks Sammy into paying it by telling him if he doesn't, he's going to tell everyone what he said the other night at the bar. Sammy hands over the credit card, and the Flock of Seagulls guy hands Robbie a ticket. JD, we're kind of racing toward the finish line here. What do you think of this scene?
Love Flock of Seagulls guy. I have to admit, when I first saw this movie when I was young, whatever, this came out in 98, I didn't know who the Flock of Seagulls were, so this movie introduced me to them as a band.
Yeah, I don't think I could name a Flock of Seagulls song, to be honest.
Well, hopefully you had heard of them at least.
Yeah, I have, yeah.
Oh, well, good. I'm not saying that I love or hate them. I just had never heard of the band and didn't know that they had a famous hairstyle, and yet here we go. And I think that goes to show the attention to details that this movie takes.
Yeah. On the plane, Julia tries to get Glenn to switch seats, but he refuses because he doesn't want the snack car to bang him in the elbows on the way by. And of course, Julia's going to get banged in the elbows instead. We cut to first class where Robbie spots Billy Idol. And then he gets some free champagne, and he starts telling the story about why he's coming to Vegas and he's got to break up the wedding. And we find out that Glenn and Julia are on the same plane when one of the stewardess comes back and says, you won't believe this, but some guy just asked if I wanted to join the Mile High Club. He said I'm grade A, top choice meat. Let's listen to a song next with a little help from Billy Idol.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're flying at 26,000 feet, moving up to 30,000 feet, and we got clear skies all the way to Las Vegas. And right now, we're bringing you some in-flight entertainment. One of our first-class passengers would like to sing you a song inspired by one of our coach passengers. And since we let our first-class passengers do pretty much whatever they want, here he is.
I wanna make you smile whenever you're sad. Carry you around when your arthritis is bad. All I wanna do is grow old with you. I'll get you medicine when your tummy aches. Build you a fire if the furnace breaks. Oh, it could be so nice growing old with you. I'll miss you, kiss you, give you my coat when you are cold. Need you, feed you, even let you hold the remote control.
What the hell's that fruit doing here?
Get out of the way! Excuse me, sir, I have to serve the beverages.
How you doing, sir?
Chicken or fish? You better get out of my way, Billy. You're gonna get hurt.
Oh, yeah?
Don't you talk to Billy Idol that way.
So let me do the dishes in our kitchen sink. Put you to bed when you've had too much to drink. Oh, I could be the man who grows old with you. I wanna grow with you.
JD, what do you think about this scene?
Billy Idol in the house.
Yeah, I mean, Billy Idol does a great job in this scene. He's fun. I'm not a real big Billy Idol guy, but he's very cool in this scene. But the song from Robbie, I thought it was great. I mean, I don't know if he made that up on the fly, but kudos to him.
It's better than the last song that he sung for her.
Yeah, the "Somebody Kill Me" song.
Yeah,
a
he's
little bit
come
more
a long
upbeat.
way. I feel like there can and should be a sequel to The Wedding Singer. Maybe it takes place in the 90s, and it focuses on him coming home after having a successful songwriting career, and he's been on tour, and now his son is starting a garage band or something like that to impress a girl at school.
I mean, that's got to be better than Grown Ups 3.
I just wrote a better Adam Sandler movie off the top of my head than the last 7 he's done.
It's hard to argue that. So Robbie tells her the song was about her and that he's in love with her, and she says, "I'm madly in love with you." They kiss, and we cut to the wedding. I love that in the scene here, Dave from earlier in the movie is now a wedding singer. Never had a lesson. No thanks to you, Pop. So the credits roll as they make their way down the aisle. JD, thoughts on the ending of the movie here?
Happy ending, yay! Except for Glen Guglia, whose life is ruined.
Yeah, somewhere out there, I think this might be a good way to do the sequel, almost like the Karate Kid series, where we focus on what happened to Glenn and how he spiraled out of control after Robbie took his girl and ruined his future.
He really did, because Glenn did love Julia.
Yeah.
He never said that he didn't. He never said that he wasn't honest and true to her. He just had some extracurricular activities.
What if in the future Glenn is this real sleazy car salesman, but he's a little bit overweight now, but he's still trying to get people to join the Mile High Club, and he kind of lives in a 1-bedroom crappy apartment, and then Robbie's this rock star now, and then they start to feud and he tries to win her back. That's a better sequel right there, right?
I think we have Wedding Singer Part 2 and Part 3 written.
Boom. Make it happen,
think
Sam.
yours is Part 2 and then mine is Part 3.
Okay. I like where your head's at. let's kind of put a bow on it. So the movie is now 20 years old. We're going to be 21 years old this year. JD, how would you say The Wedding Singer has aged over the years? Give me a second so I can burp.
Thankfully, the film gets to benefit from being a nostalgic piece in its own right. So we're not watching a film from 1998 as much as we're watching a film from 1986. So it holds up really well in the regard that it's capturing an era for the purpose of capturing an era. So it's fun to watch because it's going to remind you of the 80s, which is really cool. But it doesn't look like a movie from the 80s because it was filmed in the 90s. So it's upgraded. I liked it. I think it was a great watch. I can see myself watching it again next year sometime when I want a good laugh. Maybe before somebody's wedding or bar mitzvah. Who knows?
Have you ever been to a bar mitzvah?
I have not, no.
I have not either. So we're going to be back next week with another episode. And next week we're going to cover the horror film, My Bloody Valentine. JD, what do you look forward to most when we get into My Bloody Valentine?
Ooh, what year are we going to be in with this?
I think it's 80, 81.
So we're predating Robbie Hart.
Oh, yeah.
I just love the time period of slasher movies in this era. And we're going to get to see some great acting, some probably great mustaches, if I remember correctly, and some awesome T-shirts. Some post-70s bell bottoms going on for everybody, and an actual really good, unique story. There's backbone to this slasher.
Looking forward to diving into it. Make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, YouTube, CastBox. Everything is free. Just remember to click that subscribe button. Follow us on social media at Back in Time Pod, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can email us at backintimepodcast@gmail.com. I'm at kautry29 and Justin is at unjustjustin. And we are out of time. Time to climb back into the DeLorean, punch in today's date, and return back to present day. Thanks for listening. See ya.
Glen Guglia would totally give Charlie Conway a wedgie.